Upstairs from the makeup room, there's a whole floor devoted exclusively to wigs worn around the park. 60 performers have to be made ready daily for a show that changes every few months. And the people taking part have a chance to create their own moment of magic.
It's really the children, the expression on their faces, and I play with them. I mean, I love to blow them kisses. It's full of games like that, which is really nice.
Once they're finished in makeup, there's the daily dance rehearsal. The steps are easy, and for most performers, it's a way of warming up before they hit the streets and the waiting crowds. For some, it's also a chance to get used to their costumes and to get into character, since they often change roles. A cowboy one day, a snowball the next. The parade is one of the things that draws visitors from all over Europe to Disneyland Paris. But it wasn't always that way. When Disney decided to open a theme park in France back in the 80s, it was taking a big risk. Though at the time, the idea seemed to make perfect sense.
Building a Disneyland in Europe was almost like coming home. Many of the fairy tales that Walt Disney ended up depicting in his films, in fact, had European roots. So this is one reason why we feel very comfortable here in Europe. Secondly, of course, Europe is a major population center, and in fact, within a 2-hour flight of Disneyland Paris, there are 310 million people. So this, from a commercial reason, and this from a creative reason, really made Europe a very logical location for a Disney park.
The French government was right behind the idea and gave generous financial support, but the French public was less sure. And when the construction started on farming land just outside Paris, so did the criticisms. It was a huge construction project, one of the biggest in Europe in the whole of the 20th century. And some people in France were scared about the scale and impact of what they saw as an invasion of American values. They called it a cultural Chernobyl. Despite the glitzy ceremony, the first few years after opening in 1992 were disappointing, with fewer visitors than expected. But the initial confidence was borne out. Things gradually did improve, and now the park welcomes more than 12 million visitors a year. But the managers have learned a few lessons along the way.
We have to accommodate the fact that European guests have slightly different tastes in terms of their food, in terms of the type of merchandise they buy, from the taste of Americans, and in fact slightly different from the tastes in Japan, where the Walt Disney Company also operates a park.
One of the biggest changes they made was to the castle. This was down to Tom Morris, a top Disney Imagineer. He decided he had to design the castle to look different from the ones in the American parks.
As Americans, we're amazed by any castle because we don't have castles in the United States. Coming back to France, we felt it was important not to build a literal castle because there are literally hundreds of castles within a 200-mile radius of here. So we had to do something different, a little bit more fantastic, more fairy tale, a little more unreal.
And there are other differences too. Since Europeans like to take time over their food, there are more sit-down restaurants. There are more covered walkways to keep visitors dry. And there are totally new attractions, such as the maze based on the Alice in Wonderland story. So, do visitors who know the American parks spot the difference?
I mean, other than the French words, it doesn't really feel like you're in France. It feels like you're in Disney, for sure.
Mama, Rapunzel.
Rapunzel, that's right. And whose house is that?
Hansel and Gretel.
Very good. You have a good memory.
But it's the unpredictable weather that really makes the biggest difference to the park in France and keeps the Imagineers busy.
We employ a number of little tricks. I don't know if you could call them trade secrets or not. They're simple things like lighting, having lots of incandescent lighting that's very warm. The color palette that we chose for the park was definitely warmer. At Walt Disney World, it's a little bit cooler. We want to cool you down because it's so hot there. Here, we want to warm you up a bit. So that's why the castle is just a little bit pinker than it is in California. and why Main Street's got a little bit more chroma in it and the rock work has a little bit more heat.
We'll be telling you the secrets of how they made this mountain and the roller coaster that runs through it in just a few moments. But first, a question. Could this be the biggest pantry in the world? There are some things Disney does the same the world over. One of them is making the whole park like a movie set. And that's not just setting the scene, it's creating the whole production. In Frontierland, Disney pays attention to detail on a grand scale to make visitors believe they've entered a 19th century boomtown in the American West. Big Thunder Mountain sets the tone. It looks like a real chunk of America transported to France, but it's actually a vast creation of cement and paint over a massive metal structure.
Building Big Thunder Mountain was an enormous, enormous project. We have on our staff the greatest rock work sculptors and painters in the world. Anywhere in the world, you will not find better craftsmen than those that we have.
The result is a very convincing mountain that tells a story about a mine and a runaway train and is home to a great roller coaster ride.
Big Thunder is always one of the most popular attractions in all of the Disney parks. It's just a great classic blending of high thrill, whimsy, and comic events. Parents can ride it, but 10-year-olds can ride it as well.
We asked the man who helped make and maintain the ride to walk us along the track and to give us a never-before-seen view of this Disney attraction.
The first impression that the guest gets firstly is he's plunged into darkness, so he doesn't know where he is. And the first thing he sees as he comes round the corner, there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, which is right at the top, and he just doesn't know what to expect. And he pops up just here. Is taken onto the chain, which hauls up the train by virtue of hooks, which are underneath each of 4 of the wagons, and it makes a lovely mining clacky sound as the train runs up. Slowly but surely, and you come out through a cascade, and you're at the top of the mountain. And it's from that point on that you start your runaway, uncontrolled ride. Train comes along a flat section, you dip down at the last minute here, and you obviously believe you're going to go straight down into the river. In order to create that effect, when the train just comes over the crest, there are sensors which trigger off the high pressure jet, which gives you the impression that you've really gone down into the water. So basically you just finished a long downhill run, you've just done the splashdown, you come round onto the bottom of this lift, and you're just breathing a sigh of relief, getting ready for the next drop. And basically what we set up here are a number of animated figures. There's a goat here just behind you, there are a couple of donkeys, and it basically brings you back into the story and lets you calm down before you get dropped again for the next runaway section of the ride.
Although the mountain itself isn't really from America, most of the things inside it are. The station at the Big Thunder Mine has genuine mining tools collected by Disney Imagineers.
The tools had been collected from old miners and from auctions and from people who had no use for it anymore. And this was great that there was now a use for them. They were so pleased to be able to give us these things and know that they were going to be used.
Genuine items from the era helped Disney Imagineers make Frontierland seem real.
People came and offered them things, and then they would just spot things in fields and go and ask the owners if they would be prepared to sell them. They spent a lot of time doing it so that everything that we have here is totally authentic.
Well, maybe not the horseshoe prints, but the overall effect definitely gives you a taste of the Wild West. And if soaking up the atmosphere gives you a pioneer-sized appetite, there are plenty of places to stop and eat. The restaurants range from fast food to formal, and there are food carts dotted around the park. And the cuisine is a mix of French and American, so don't worry, it's not all frog's legs and frite. But serving up 150,000 meals a day requires a truly awesome operation. This is the kitchen cupboard at Disneyland Paris. A warehouse big enough to store all the fruit, vegetables, ketchup, ice cream, Coke, and cookies that 30,000 visitors a day could possibly want to eat. Coordinating it all is the man with a shopping list from hell.
Well, believe it or not, we are serving more than 28 million meals every year in Disneyland Paris. So in order to serve all those meals, we have to buy and store a lot of products. For example, if we look at these items, Coca-Cola, we are using more than 6 million liters of Coca-Cola every year in Disneyland Paris, and that's a lot of food and beverages.
They see 20 million rolls each year, enough ice cream to fill 200 swimming pools, and 1,500 tons of fries. Burgers and fries are still a firm favorite with many visitors, and providing enough of them is a real challenge. Hyperion in Discoveryland is the biggest fast food restaurant in the whole of Europe. Lunchtimes in the kitchen there are a frenzy.
It's very, very busy. It's amazing. It's kind of war. Let's do hamburgers. We are in high season. We are selling nearly 13,000 hamburgers per day. We are the biggest fast food in Europe, selling nearly 3 tons of fries at high season. On a busy day, we are 46 in the kitchen during the day. It's a very, very busy place.
Just down the road at the Toy Story restaurant is an exclusive.
Hello, can I have a pizza burger, please?
The Pizza Burger. The hamburger in a pizza-based bun was invented here in the Paris park. And they're so confident it'll catch on, they've taken out a copyright on it. Well, we'll get back to you on that one. But don't think it's all burgers and buns.
I mean, look at that. I mean, you have tomatoes, grapes, apples, which are coming every day, twice a day in fact, to serve our restaurants with fresh product to make a nice meal for our guests.
Delicious fresh food to suit every taste is handmade here, including luxury treats like this Cinderella chocolate slipper. In fact, chocolate is a Disneyland Paris specialty. The park employs a chocolatier. That's a top French chef who specializes in making sculptures out of the substance we all love.
Okay. Ce que j'aime dans le chocolat, c'est avant tout le.
What I like most about chocolate is the challenge. I mean, every day working with it is different. You have to have real feel for this stuff, and that's why I like it.
They say you can have too much of a good thing, but not Thierry. He uses about 2 tons of chocolate every year. His latest creation is an abstract of a woman. For this, he made the accessories, purse, and perfume bottles all out of chocolate. This is no dessert. This is art. It may look too good to eat, but magic is sometimes even edible. When you've digested, we'll be back with the real story of the most popular show in Disneyland Paris. At Disneyland Paris, wherever you walk in the park, you're never far from greenery. And that's because the plants here aren't just for show. They're actually being used to create the hidden Disney magic. Behind the scenes, there's a small army of gardeners looking after 12,000 trees and more than 100,000 shrubs. They plant up to 1 million new flowers in the park every single year. Keeping the plants well watered in summer is an even bigger challenge. Because of the sheer size of the place, 3,500 miles of water pipes run just below the park's surface. And it's Stefan's job to make sure all the plants get not too much, not too little. It's all done by computer, so he can operate it by remote control wherever he is in the world.
I love this new technology. That's permit me to contact the park and modify the irrigation everywhere in the world where I am. I call the computer, I can turn on irrigation, turn off irrigation, and I can do everything.
Looking after a garden this big is an around-the-clock job. But while others are hard at work, the fun goes on. Just outside the park, there are dozens of restaurants, bars, and shows to choose from. And this is the most popular one of all. The Wild West is alive and well in Disneyland Paris. Thanks to a show that recreates the famous world tour of Buffalo Bill back in the 19th century.
Mesdames et messieurs.
There's cowboys and cattle scenes, cavalcades and shooting contests, all entertainingly done. With daredevil rodeo games, a dinner served to your seat, and even wild buffaloes in the ring. This is a real spectacle. 3.5 million people have enjoyed the show. So what's the secret of its success?
I'm a grown man getting paid to play cowboys and Indians. Most everybody I know would like to. Has played cowboys, has loved the Western movie, the legend of the Old West in the United States. That's the romance of the Old West brought to you real, brought to you up close. That's got to be it. That's got to be the secret.
This is Disneyland's very own horse whisperer. It's Thierry's job to pick the horses and the riders for the show and train them to do the stunts. It takes something special. There's so much going on in a performance that could frighten an animal.
You work him first in the brain. You need to have confidence to you first. When you walk with the horses, you just teach him the basic. Turn, stop, back up. After that, when he understands what you ask him, you just go on a second step, trot, after low, until he knows everything.
But the real key to the show is in the riders. It's an incredibly skilled job, and Thierry has to choose them carefully. He told us how.
Yeah, I need to see something in the eyes, you know, just something clear, you know, and a connection between the heart and the brain. I think you need that. A guy just with his brain is useless.
Brock was one of those hand-picked for the show when he was a cowboy in America.
For me, it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing that when they called me up to see if I wanted to work in a Wild West show in France, I said, yeah, no problem.
But it's not easy. What you don't see is how tough it is on all those involved and how dangerous it can get.
It's hard, and it's hard on people and hard on horses. There's a lot of running and stopping and turning. About a year ago, a year and a half, my horse fell, and he fell on my leg and broke my ankle, and I was out for 4 months with that. But we have, you know, it's a live, fast-paced show.
It demands great horsemanship, incredible physical fitness, courage, and a sense of spectacle. The show claims to be very close to the one done by the original Buffalo Bill.
How true is it? We've got real Indians, we've got real cowboys, we've got real American quarter horses, real American buffalo, you know, a real stagecoach. It doesn't get much more real than that. One of the things that I like about it, in fact, is a lot of the guys in the show are very serious about who they are and what they're presenting in terms of their heritage, and that goes for the Indians and the cowboys.
I guess the cattle trail scene is the best for me because it's a chance to just kind of show the public what we really do back where we come from. There are still cowboys working cows.
We went behind the scenes to find out what it takes to keep the show running twice a day, 7 nights a week, every week of the year. And the first thing is 572 tons of hay. They have 56 horses, but only half of them work at one time during the show. So at least they all get a day off. There are also longhorns to feed and water daily. Not to mention a dozen wild animals, the bison. They can be dangerous and have to be kept separate from the rest. They really are wild animals, and only Thierry and their tamer are allowed into the pen to see them. Our cameraman said he'd take the risk until one of the beasts turned mean. These magnificent creatures provide some of the most spellbinding scenes in a show where all the elements behind the scenes come together to create a uniquely Disney spectacle. But the show never really ends in Europe's most popular theme park. The magic keeps on coming. On this trip, we've uncovered the minds and machines that made the first coaster to shoot you to the moon. Gone where the cameras have never been allowed before to show the hidden work behind the parade. Lifted the lid on Disney cooking. And got the inside story on redesigning this white-knuckle ride. But there's so much more to see on a visit to Disneyland Paris. You'll still believe in magic.